As it relates to persecuted Christians, do you see them as kind of a priority here?
Yes.
You do?
Yes, they've been horribly treated. Do you know, if you were a Christian in Syria, it was impossible, at least very, very tough to get into the United States. If you were a Muslim, you could come in. But if you were a Christian, it was almost impossible. And the reason that was so unfair is that everybody was persecuted, in all fairness, but they were chopping off the heads of everybody, but more so the Christians.
That was President Trump talking to Christian Broadcasting Network's David Brody. Just a quick fact check, not broken down by Syria, but in terms of general refugees admitted to the United States, according to Pew, Muslim refugees, 38,901. Christian refugees, 37,521. So not impossible to get in. I'm back with our roundtable. Governor Brewer, you were taking issue with some of the things said by some of the other panelists.
Well, in regards to the Muslim ban, you know, if that was true, then he would have banned all the people coming in from all the other countries, Turkey, Indonesia. He has not done that. I believe that the administration probably has high intelligence reports that these countries that he has named, there's a danger there. And he promised the people of America, of the United States, that he was going to keep us safe.
So why
not
name a single country where one of the 9/11 hijackers came from? Why not name UAE or Saudi Arabia? Or why not name Russia, where the Boston bombers came from? Can we explain? Because
the bottom line is that they chose these countries based, I would assume,
Governor,
on intelligence.
Governor, that's assuming that then on January the 19th, that there was one kind of intelligence, and on January 20th, there was another kind of intelligence. That is assuming that President Obama didn't want to keep America safe, and that, in fact, he didn't have the kind of wisdom to be able to put certain countries on that list. America is made up of the most diverse group of Muslims anywhere in the world, and they represent every country on the planet. But the rationale of this executive order, you would have to put every country in the world on that list. What every security expert knows is that the greatest threat that we have right now is what's happening inside of the homeland. And we have ISIS cells in every single state. What we ought to be doing, and what the president can do to succeed in defeating ISIS, is to look inward, to raise up civil society that can push back and not allow radicalization from happening. This is not coming from outside of our country along an idea, wall over here. It's coming from an exploitative motion for young people on the issue of identity, and we have to be very vigilant in understanding what we've learned over 15
part of the
years.
reason that did not happen is because those security experts and those experts were not consulted. It should be very worrisome to everybody, including my party, that the Department of Homeland Security was not consulted. That General John Kelly, a man who has served his country, a 4-star general, a Marine, a patriot, did not learn about this order until hours before he was supposed to start implementing, his department was supposed to start implementing. That department expressed concern about it being implemented on legal permanent residents, and he got overridden by people in the White House who are not national security experts, though some of them may now be in the National Security Council principals meeting. It should be worrisome. We should establish the interagency working groups. There are reasons to have experts like Farah and like others at Department of State, at Department of Homeland Security, who are going to have to be implementing this. This should not be done by folks with no experience and nothing but campaign promises to fulfill in the White House.
I believe that the American people of the United States, they want our country to be
Everybody.
secure.
Everybody does.
Everybody does.
And he has surrounded himself, President Trump has surrounded himself with very, very intelligent cabinet members and intelligent White House administrators.
He's not letting them input, Jan.
You don't know that.
Did you read the report? DHS found out about this executive order less than 24 hours before it was signed.
If I can just chime in quickly, because you started down the path of this Christian preference. And as a Christian, I think that this is deeply concerning because this is not what our country was built upon. I mean, this is, and I may get in trouble for saying this, but I believe this to be the antithesis to Christianity. I mean, the fact of the matter is we are a country that is built upon vast religions. We are a country that's built upon the beautiful people of all races, of all shades. And the fact that we are now, give us just some, not all, I mean, it's amazing that people are now just pro some lives, when just this week everybody was pro-life, but now we're just pro some lives.
We accept more refugees. We accept more people, visas coming in and traveling in our country than almost any other country. We are,
don't think
and we
that's
understand
accurate.
that's what we're based on.
I don't think that's accurate.
I would actually look
It
at
is
Israel
correct.
or other.
Look, I will tell you this. The Obama administration
correct.
owns its inaction on what happened
have to
in
go.
Syria. The
And everybody
Republicans
is
will own this
hysterical.
if we don't speak up.
All right, thanks one and all for being here. Appreciate it.